The Cleveland Browns have just experienced one of the most dramatic internal power shifts the NFL has seen in years. A move so bold, so unexpected, and so politically explosive that it has already ignited debates across the league, sent shockwaves through the locker room, and thrown the entire Browns hierarchy into a state of confusion and finger-pointing. Something enormous just happened behind the closed doors of the Browns facility, something the public wasn't supposed to know, and now that it has surfaced, every analyst, every insider, and every frustrated Cleveland fan is trying to piece together how the franchise reached this exact moment. Whether you call it a power struggle, a coup, or a last-ditch effort to rescue a failing season, one thing is obvious. A decision has been made that will change this organization for years, and every piece of evidence points to one simple truth. Shedeur Sanders is now the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, and this was not a Kevin Stefanski decision. This was ownership intervention at its purest form, a top-down mandate delivered with the subtlety of a sledgehammer, and it has completely altered the future of this team. It all began with a press conference that instantly felt wrong. Kevin Stefanski stepped to the podium wearing the expression of a man forced to deliver news he didn't agree with. The room fell silent, the cameras clicked on, and Stefanski, speaking with the stiffness of someone reading off a cue card, announced that Shedeur Sanders, not Dillon Gabriel, would start for the Browns this week. Sanders, the rookie who made a spark in his first outing. Sanders, the fifth-round pick the entire league had questioned. Sanders, the quarterback with the biggest last name in football. And Gabriel, who had cleared concussion protocol and was physically ready to return. He was benched. No competition, no discussion, no ambiguity. Gabriel was out. Sanders was in. It wasn't just the decision that raised eyebrows, it was how the decision was delivered. There was no typical coach language like, "We're evaluating the position daily," or "We'll see how the week goes." Instead, it was definitive, final, and carried a tension that felt bigger than football. From that moment forward, speculation exploded. This wasn't football logic. It wasn't performance-based. It certainly wasn't meritocracy. It was something else, something political, something business-driven, something that could only originate from the owner's suite. And when you step back and examine the broader context, it becomes painfully clear why this move was made. The Browns' season was collapsing. The team wasn't competitive. Fan morale had cratered. Stadium attendance was becoming embarrassing, with large pockets of empty seats in what used to be one of the NFL's most passionate football cities. Secondary market ticket prices were dropping so fast they could barely be tracked. In some cases, fans were selling seats at a loss just to avoid the cold and the heartbreak of another Cleveland flop. People weren't showing up. The team wasn't selling hope. And for Jimmy Haslam, an owner who has always been quick to react when business metrics fall off a cliff, that alone was enough to trigger action. So what do you do when your franchise is collapsing? When your fan base is checked out? When the entire city seems to stop believing in the product you're putting on the field? You create a spark. You inject energy. You find something, anything that can pull attention back to your organization. And that's where Shedeur Sanders enters the picture. Not just as a quarterback, not just as a rookie, but as a marketing force, the son of Deion Sanders, a national name, a player who trends instantly, no matter what he does, a player who draws cameras, headlines, and attention by simply walking onto the field. This isn't coincidence. This isn't timing. This is business. And everything about this move screams Jimmy Haslam's fingerprints. But the press conference revealed even more when you pay attention to Stefanski's tone. When asked directly about Shedeur, Stefanski delivered textbook coach speak, praising his communication, his poise, his ability to manage the offense, mentioning a high-difficulty throw that impressed the staff. But there was an undertone to his words, like he was describing someone else's decision, not his own. He didn't sound like a coach who just made a bold move that he believed in. He sounded like a coach trying to justify a choice that had already been made for him. And when the question shifted to Dillon Gabriel, the truth became even clearer. Stefanski talked about the emotional and mental challenge of becoming a backup after being a starter your entire life. He talked about staying ready, staying prepared, and continuing to grind behind the scenes. He spoke as if he were consoling a player who had been wronged. Because let's be honest, Gabriel didn't deserve this. He lost his job not because of failures, not because of poor play, but because of injury. That's all. And in the NFL, you're not supposed to lose your job because of injury. But that rule doesn't apply when ownership gets involved. Inside the locker room, players immediately understood what was happening. They've seen this before. When decisions don't make football sense, when choices feel rushed and forced, when timing doesn't align with performance, players know the truth. This came from the top. And that creates tension. Players know when a teammate is being benched for non-football reasons. They know when a coach was overruled. They know when a quarterback switch is about ticket sales, not game film. And when trust in the system breaks, everything else starts cracking with it. To make matters even more dramatic, the Browns were actually coming off their first win of the season, a rare bright spot in an otherwise miserable year. Sanders had stepped in for Gabriel, made some plays, showed flashes of potential, and helped secure a much-needed victory. But the plan, at least from a football perspective, was simple. Once Gabriel cleared concussion protocol, he would regain his starting spot. That's normal, that's standard. That's how NFL teams operate. But this time, that process was ignored entirely. Instead, Stefanski announced that Sanders, with just one career start, would keep the job. Everything about the announcement screamed external influence. The smoking gun came later, when one reporter finally said what nobody else wanted to say out loud. Ticket prices, attendance, fan engagement, the business side of football. Because as much as fans want to believe teams make decisions purely based on competition and performance, the truth is that the NFL is a business, and business has been brutal for the Browns. For weeks, Cleveland fans had checked out, selling seats for fractions of their value. The franchise was trending downward in every measurable category, and then Sanders' first start happened, and suddenly, ticket searches skyrocketed, buzz returned, and hope flickered back to life. That's not coincidence. That's cause and effect. And Jimmy Haslam knows exactly what he's doing. But here's where things get even more complicated. Shedeur Sanders didn't ask for any of this. He didn't ask to be the face of a team in crisis. He didn't ask for ownership intervention. He didn't ask to become the savior of a franchise falling apart. He's a rookie trying to learn the league, trying to develop, trying to find his footing in the most intense environment imaginable. And now, because of his last name and the desperation of ownership, he's being thrust into a spotlight that is far bigger than football. Every throw he makes will be scrutinized. Every mistake will be magnified. Every win will be hailed as proof of genius. And every loss will be blamed on the decision to promote him too early. That's not fair to him. That's not fair to the coaching staff. And it's certainly not fair to Gabriel, who did nothing to lose his job other than suffer an injury. Stefanski's future now hangs in the balance as well. Because whether he likes this decision or not, whether he believes in Sanders or not, this move is now attached to his career. If Sanders succeeds, Stefanski will be praised for developing him, even if the move wasn't his idea. But if Sanders struggles, the blame will fall squarely on Stefanski, regardless of how much of this decision was forced upon him. This is the impossible situation that coaches face when ownership meddles in football matters. Their authority erodes, their credibility weakens, and their influence diminishes. Meanwhile, Gabriel has been placed in an excruciating position. He has to remain professional. He has to support the guy who replaced him. He has to pretend everything is normal. But deep down, he has to know what really happened, that he wasn't benched for performance, but for business. And that realization breaks trust, breaks morale, and breaks relationships. Inside the Browns facility, everyone feels the tension. Players talk in hushed conversations around their lockers, glancing over their shoulders as if someone might be listening. Coaches whisper in meeting rooms, exchanging uneasy looks that suggest they know more than they're allowed to admit. Staffers gossip in hallways, piecing together rumors and internal whispers like detectives trying to solve a mystery. Everyone has theories, and every theory seems to point in the same direction. Jimmy Haslam, frustrated with sinking revenue, stagnant fan interest, and a season spiraling toward embarrassment, finally reached his breaking point. And instead of letting football people fix football problems, he took matters into his own hands. When an NFL owner steps into the football side of operations, especially at the quarterback position, history shows that it almost never ends well. Across the league, front offices are watching the situation unfold with raised eyebrows. Other teams know exactly what this kind of decision looks like. Free agents notice, and many quietly cross Cleveland off their list. Coaches around the league see it too, understanding that once ownership starts overriding the coaching staff on personnel decisions, the entire power structure collapses. The unwritten trust that a franchise needs to function smoothly disappears. Everyone sees it. Everyone talks about it. And Cleveland is once again being viewed as a cautionary tale of what happens when impatience and panic replace structure and football logic. If Shedeur Sanders succeeds under these circumstances, he becomes the new face of the franchise, the unexpected hero who was thrown into chaos and somehow emerged stronger. Gabriel becomes the forgotten man, the player who did nothing wrong but ended up on the wrong side of a political decision. Stefanski keeps his job for a little longer, but the leash tightens. Ownership claims victory, the media spins the narrative, and the Browns pretend everything was part of a master plan. But if Sanders struggles, like so many rookies do when they're rushed onto the field before they're ready, the fallout will be brutal. Gabriel's confidence could be shattered after being discarded for reasons unrelated to football. Stefanski would lose even more control of his locker room, becoming a head coach trapped in an organization where his decisions no longer matter. Players would begin to question the direction of the team, wondering whether winning actually matters, or whether the franchise is driven purely by panic and revenue. Fans, already exhausted from decades of dysfunction, could turn on the organization with a fury. And when it all comes crashing down, Jimmy Haslam will likely distance himself from the very decision he orchestrated, blaming the coaching staff or the players instead of owning the chaos he helped create. This move could spark a genuine new era, if everything goes perfectly, or it could plunge the Browns even deeper into the dysfunction that has defined them for decades. Shedeur Sanders is now the face of a team in turmoil, a young quarterback thrust into a storm he didn't start and can't control. He is expected to carry the hopes, frustrations, and business interests of an entire franchise on his shoulders. Whether he's ready or not, whether he wants that responsibility or not, the future of this team now falls on him in a way that isn't fair to any rookie. And that's the story unfolding in Cleveland right now. A desperate owner taking control, a head coach being overruled, a displaced quarterback forced into silence, and a rookie shoved into the spotlight under impossible circumstances. Whether this gamble becomes the turning point the Browns have been searching for, or whether it becomes another spectacular collapse in a long line of Cleveland disasters, remains to be seen. But one thing is undeniable: the drama in Cleveland is nowhere near finished. In fact, we're watching it unfold in real time as this quarterback controversy evolves from a personnel decision into a full-scale organizational identity crisis that will define the franchise for years to come. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay locked in on every twist of this unbelievable Brown saga, make sure you hit that like button because it truly helps out the channel and pushes this content to more NFL fans. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Jimmy Haslam forced this move? Is Shedeur Sanders really ready to take over the starting job? And what do you think happens next for Dillon Gabriel? I want to hear your perspective, so don't be shy. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and turn on notifications so you never miss an update, because this story is only getting crazier from here. And hey, share this video with any Browns fan, any NFL fan, or anyone who wants to understand what's really happening behind the scenes in Cleveland. Your support means everything, so like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one.